Hey guys, and welcome to the ZJC Worship Acoustic Guitar webinar. My name is Zach. I'm the founder and CEO of ZJC Worship. I'm so glad you're joining me tonight. I know it's late. We'll try and respect your time, and we'll keep things moving. And before we hop in, I want to just do some quick housekeeping things, just like we did with the piano webinar. So the first thing is that this is designed to really help you learn to play acoustic guitar for worship ministry. So in your church, whether it's a worship team, maybe you want to lead worship, this is designed to be an on-ramp, a starting point for you to be able to do that. And in order to do that, we're going to go through the introductory kind of fundamental things to try and help make it as easy as possible for you to start learning. So having an acoustic guitar in front of you is going to be really, really helpful. Now, we're going to try and keep things moving, but don't worry, there's going to be a replay. There's a PDF with the slides that you can download. This is pre-recorded, full disclosure, and the goal with that is to make it as high quality as we can, make sure there are no internet issues that would prevent you from missing something. But there's going to be a Zoom Hangout after the webinar that I hope you come and hang out with me. I'm also live in the YouTube chat right now, so if you have questions, even though you see me here in front of you, I'm also in the chat, and that is through the power of technology. So if you have questions, ask away, and I would be happy to answer. So the link to Zoom is in your email, and there's also a button on this page as well. So don't be afraid to ask. I'll put it in chat as well. So after the webinar, we're going to have a Zoom Hangout, and I hope you stick around for that. We're going to be giving out one free acoustic course. So you're not going to want to miss that. That'll be the full course. A lot of what's covered here is just the very tip of the iceberg. There's so much in that course. So I hope you'll stay for that, and happy to get to know you and answer any questions that you might have. So without further ado, let's hop in. So our goal is to be able to play one worship song by the end of this webinar on acoustic guitar. And that may feel like a lot, but I'm going to try and make it as simple as possible for you to understand, and so that you can actually learn to play it. So the basic technique with holding the guitar. So the first thing, posture-wise, try and sit up straight. I'm just notorious for slouching, so you'll catch me doing it, I'm sure, but try not to. Or you can stand with a guitar strap. So if you have a guitar strap, usually the guitar clips in right down here, and then wherever your pickup is, which is usually over here. So you want to rest your acoustic on your leg or use a strap. Your left arm is going to go under the neck, and really mostly your hand, but it's going to go down like this. Your right arm is going to sit up on the guitar, and usually it rests on the elbow, just like this. I would point out in this example that I found on Canva, this guitarist, I'm sure he's a great guitarist, but the elbow up in the air is probably not what I would recommend. I'd encourage you to rest your elbow on your guitar. It's going to be healthier for your elbow. So how do you tune your guitar? So I'm not going to show you how to restring a guitar, although I would be happy to create a resource on how to do that. But for this, the purposes of this, I'm assuming that you've got a guitar with strings on it. And if not, we're not going to have time to do that anyway. So I'd be happy to answer that question at another point. But for tuning your guitar, the way that you tune it is you use the tuner keys or pegs up here. And depending on whether you turn them clockwise or counterclockwise, if you turn, in my case, if I turn it counterclockwise, that's not moving a lot. Let me try a different one. There it is. It's more obvious. On this guitar, the low E doesn't move a lot, very easily. So the A, if I turn that counterclockwise, the pitch goes up. If I turn it clockwise, you hear the pitch go down. So that's how you would tune your guitar. And you see that you're looking for your lowest string is going to be your E. Now, mine is different than the picture that you're seeing. My E is actually, let's see. No, that's right. This is the same. Never mind. So my E is this tuning peg, excuse me. My A is here, my D is here, my G is here, my B is here, and my other E, the high E, is right there. So you just heard me talk about string names. I was like, what is he talking about? Well, this is what your strings, what the names are for your strings. So from behind the guitar, this is assuming you're looking down at your guitar. From lowest to highest, you have E, A, D, G, B, E. And in my case, my guitar is a little out of tune, and I'm going to show you how to tune the guitar. This is intentional, but this is what the string names are. So the lowest one is your low E, the highest is your high E. And these names are really not arbitrary. I want you to keep in mind it's really easy on guitar to have this mindset that things are just arbitrary. The way chords are is just because someone out there came up with a shape that makes a chord and it doesn't fit in anywhere else. But the reality is these notes fit into the system of music called music theory. And I want you to be aware of that. So if you were to look on a piano, the same notes that you can play on guitar, if I play an E, or let's pick a string that's not, it's probably more in tune. So if I play a B, oh man, my guitar is super out of tune. So how about we tune the guitar and then come back to this? So let's tune the guitar. So the low E, if you look on a piano and you follow this diagram, if you were to play that low E, that's what it should be tuned to. Now, if you were to tune with a tuner or something, you would see that this is what's called flat. From your perspective, it would look, there'd be a line pointing out this way. If 12 o'clock is perfectly in tune, it's under the pitch, it's tilted that way. That would mean it needs to be tuned up. So yeah, that's pretty close. So then if we go up and we follow this diagram, we play our A, and it's under 2, so we're going to put it up. It's pretty close. Just for clarity, the best way to tune is with a tuner pedal, but I'm showing you how you can do this with a piano or some other option that you have. And this is showing you how the notes correspond to piano keys, which is actually very valuable. So a D would be here. And that one is, yeah, that one's really high, so we need to drop it down. That's great. That's at least it's pretty close. But I'm happy because that's a great example. That was sharp. So if I were to look at a guitar tuner, it would have been this way. It actually would have been too high, so I needed to bring it back down. So now let's do G. Close, but it's a little flat. Okay, and then B. Pretty close. Yeah, that was a little flat too. And then E. I've been in an alternate tuning, so this is going to have to go way up. Yeah, this needs to go higher. Okay, it's not going to be a perfect tuning for this, but that's going to be pretty close. This is essentially how, if you have access to a piano, even if you don't have a tuning pedal, that you could tune your guitar. The thing with this is it's going to be imprecise. The best way to tune your guitar is using a tuner pedal. So the one on the top left, the 8010, is what I use for when I'm leading worship. I love it. I've also used the Boss Chromatic Tuner in the bottom right. I've used Polytune in the middle. I've used really about any of these options I've used at some point. And generally, you'll find that some are better than others. When I'm needing a quick tune, the Guitar Tuna app is really the best that I've seen. but it's not as good as a tuner pedal in my experience. So just keep that in mind. So when you look at notes on piano, did you see how there was a connection between the strings that I was tuning to and the notes that were on the piano? That's going to be a really helpful concept for you to keep in mind as you're learning guitar. The notes that you are playing on guitar correspond to what your other teammates are playing on other instruments. All right, so I just took a second using the Guitar Tuner app to actually just tweak the tuning. It was pretty close, but you'll find much better results if you tune with a tuner pedal or an app than you will if you're tuning by ear with a piano. But it's useful to know. So now let's talk about basic technique with wrists and hands. So you want to relax. You want to keep the tension out. You want to keep your wrists loose and flexible. So when you're strumming, the more you can, from the very beginning, utilize your wrist over your arm, it will give you a better sound. It will sound better if you strum, I'm going to show the bad example. So if you strum all arm, and you see how it's almost like just a windmill, like it's it's just perfectly straight. Whereas if you have some wrist action in there, you see just a little bit of wrist action really helps. So keep it loose. I probably, if one of the things that would have been good for me is even learning to do even more wrist at the very beginning. So I have probably more arm than even I should, but some things are harder to unlearn. So as you are starting, use as much wrist as you can when you're learning and developing an ingraining technique. So you don't want to clench your hand. You don't want to stiffen your wrists. You want to follow the natural path of your arm and wrist as much as possible. So don't over tilt your wrists unnaturally. If you're experiencing repeated tension and pain in your technique, maybe it's your forearms, that can be really common for musicians. You want to make an adjustment, and that's a really good time to get a private teacher involved who specializes in that to help you avoid long-term injury. It is not fun. So basic technique, frets. Let's talk about frets. So don't fret. No. So each vertical line on your guitar marks a fret. So if you start at the headstock, and we refer to each fret number in order. So not fretting would be open. This would be fret number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. It is useful to note most guitars have markers. Most of the time it's on 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7th, 9th. Mine, these are 1 dot. So 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, 1 dot, and then 12. 12th fret has 2 dots. And then my 15th and 17th frets have 1 dot as well. So most guitars have around 20 to 24 frets. Mine is probably, once it gets up to it's about like 19, something like that. Dreadnought-shaped guitars will limit how high you can go. This is why this is a cutaway guitar. I think almost like every guitar that I buy is going to be a cutaway guitar just because I want to be able to access those frets. It may not matter for you if you're only playing rhythm, but if you think you might play lead parts on acoustic guitar down the road, which I would encourage you to have the option to do, just get a cutaway guitar. So basic technique for your left hand when you are fretting. So with your left hand, you want to press your fingertips down onto the frets. So you want to aim for the right side of the fret, not in the middle. And there's a reason for this. Definitely not on the left side. That will sound typically pretty bad. You want to aim on the right side of the fret, just next to the fret line. So your thumb, it's probably going to come down the top of the guitar. And with practice, you can actually use this to fret the lowest string. So like if you're playing a D over F sharp, my thumb is actually fretting that. And here's the reality. This will hurt for 2 weeks while you build calluses. You will have grooves in your fingers. When I started playing guitar, I was playing like 2 or 3 hours a day the first 2 weeks. And I mean, I had just canyons in my fingers. It's normal. And if I can say in love, suck it up and push through it. Like, it's going to be worth it. It's going to have a little pain to get some gain. So your right hand, what you want to do is you want to hold the pick perpendicular to your thumb. And when I say perpendicular, I mean that the tip of the pick is pointed down while your thumb is moving across the pick. So it should be 90 degrees. And the reason for that is that if you hold it totally straight, vertical, you're going to have your wrist at a really weird angle, or you're going to, you're going to hit your fingers on the string. It's just going to be a mess. So 90 degrees is what you want. To strum, you want to turn your wrist side to side and sweep the strings. So something like... Now, keep in mind, you do not have to hit all the strings every time. What's interesting about this is the way I describe my strumming pattern, and this is based on feel, so if you look at the video, maybe there's a difference, but I don't think there is. It feels like I'm actually arcing up at this kind of angle when I strum. I'm not going flat like this, not flat over the strings. I'm actually coming up and pulling up and away. Whoops. Let's see here. Oh, my chord is on the string. That would do it. So you see, I'm like trying to come up just a little bit instead of perfectly flat. So keep your hand moving, pull it in and out. That's how you get variation in your strumming patterns. So now let's talk about finger numbers. So which finger should I use? Well, you want to use whatever is simple and logical, requires the least amount of hand movement. So if you can just move one finger to play the next chord, and it's, it doesn't require you to move, don't move your hand. Just move that one finger. You want to use whatever allows you to play from a position of confidence, and you want whatever doesn't require awkward hand positions. And acoustic has one unique thing about this. You want to prioritize open strings, and I cannot emphasize this enough, I should say. When you are playing acoustic, you want open strings as much as possible, whatever that takes. Open strings will give you the most resonant sound. It will sound the most full. And if you play like bar chords, here's the thing, I can play bar chords, but those are going to have kind of a crunchy sound. It's kind of a cheesy sound. Whereas if you're playing open strings, the open strings are going to have a better sound. That was a little messy. Sorry about that. But let's talk about reading chords in tab. So reading chords in tab, or tablature, this is a shorthand way of learning different chords. So the G chord that I recommend that you learn is 3x0033. And you're looking at that, I'm sure, like, what is this gobbledygook? But there's a reason for it. If you look on certain chord chart websites, most of them will have diagrams, but some of them will talk about chords this way. And the reason I think it's really helpful is because it is a shorthand, quick way to explain a chord. So when you're looking at tab or tablature, the first three, those notes, or I should say the numbers, the symbols, correspond to each string of the guitar. So the first three means to fret the third fret on the low E string. X means to mute the string by lightly touching it while we fret the chord. So in this case, if I'm playing it with my 2 finger or my middle finger, I'm actually fretting the low E and muting the A string. Then I'm playing the D string open and the G string open. That's what the 0 means. The 0 means play it open. And then the 3rd fret, I would fret on the B and E strings. And that's what that stands for. So I'm going to show you this 3 different ways. I'm going to show you a picture of what the chord looks like. I'm going to show you finger numbers on a guitar. And I'm going to show you it in tab so that no matter what you see, you'll know how to read that and put it into practice. So A G chord is just what I showed you. So 3x0033. And you can see on the graphic what it looks like. We're using our 2 finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string, muting the A string with our middle finger, and then open, open, 3, 4. In terms of finger numbers. In terms of frets, it's just 3, 3. But when you're thinking about this, there are other versions of G's that you can play. You could play that, you could play. The reason I want you to learn this first is if you can learn how to mute strings and keep things clean with this chord shape, it opens up a whole bunch of options for worship music that are really, really useful. I think it's worth learning at the very beginning. I actually think that's the best chord voicing for worship most of the time. And the reason is you don't want that lower. You just want it clean. In most circumstances, that's better unless you're capoed up, but that's for another class. So, an E minor chord. This would be 022000. So open, 2, 2, and I'm using my 1 and 2 fingers. You could use your 2 and 3, or your 3 and 4. It just depends on what you want. But you can do open, 2, 2, open, open, open. And so you see, that's a relatively easy chord to play. A C chord would be played X, 3, 2, 0, 1, 0. And we're going to be moving through these probably quicker than for a lot of cases you're going to be able to do. Just remember you have the resources to try this afterward as well. So the trick with this chord, you do not, unless you are intentionally playing a C/E chord, that's an inversion, you do not want to hit this lower E. This is a very, very common rookie mistake with acoustic guitar. And it happens because you don't know how to control the pick to miss the low E. So if I don't mute it, but, you know, I can play with experience and not hit that low E. But when you're starting out, that's a tall ask. That's a hard thing to do. So a way to avoid that is you need to mute the low E. And there are really kind of 2 ways you can do it, I guess. Most of the time for me, I'm muting the low E with my 3rd finger. So I'm playing the C, but I'm also barely touching the low E. You also could hold your thumb against it. So, and the 2 together. I need to stop bumping the cable with it. But yeah, so that's the idea. And you notice even if I hit this low E while I'm strumming, you can't hear it. Like you can't hear that I'm muting this. And it will actually create this kind of a rhythmic texture in the midst of the chord. So that is how you play C. A D chord is X, open, open, 2, 3, 2. So X, open, open, 2, 3, 2. And I'm using my 1 finger, my 2 finger, and my 3 finger. And you can see that's on 2nd, 3rd, and 2nd frets. So the important thing with this, most guitar books will say that you should mute both the E and the A strings, the low E. I don't think this is generally that big of a deal. Play the open A. It's a lot easier. So if you don't play the open A, it's going to sound like this. It's going to sound thinner. That's fine. Most circumstances you can play the low A. However, don't play the low E. It'll sound really bad. So what you want to do is you want to mute the low E with your thumb. Or don't strum it. But again, at the beginning, that's kind of hard. So, okay, so that is the chord. So let's talk about strumming patterns. I'm going to show you some examples of as we play through the song. we're going to be using a really basic strumming pattern. We're going to be playing a song in 4/4. All that means for your purpose right now as a beginner is we're playing in every measure, the subdivision of music, it has 4 beats. So we count it 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to be playing, or strumming, I should say, on the 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to keep it really simple to start with. This is typically called playing with diamonds, although this seems like that terminology is you don't see it as much anymore. But that's what essentially we're doing. So we're going to play Nothing But the Blood, and we're going to play it with the chords that we have learned, and we're going to keep it really simple right now. So 2, 3. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me whole again? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. And oh, precious is the flow that makes me white as snow. No other fount I know, nothing but the blood of Jesus. And that's it. So when you're moving between chords, try and minimize the noise. And it's going to be difficult at first. A lot of times when you're starting out, you're going to have to plan your movements ahead of time. When I would start out, I would just practice without even strumming. Okay, I'm moving E minor to C to D to G to E minor to C to D to G to C, and call out where I'm going as a way of practicing it. So now let me show you a different way of approaching this that might be a little bit easier when you're starting out. There are tricks that you can use that will help you get functional faster, and this is one of them. So we're going to try this again, but we're going to play it with some different chords. So this is a G chord, just like we've learned. But now for our E chord, E minor chord I should say, we're going to keep our 3 and 4 fingers in the same place and just move our 1 and 2 fingers. So it will be open, 2, 2, open, 3, 3. Pretty nice sound. And then we're going to go to a C2 chord. So this technically, you could play this as X, 3, 2, open, 3, 3. I'm going to encourage you to mute the middle one, the D chord, or D string, excuse me. So playing it X, 3, X, open, 3, 3. It's just a cleaner sound, less of a big deal if you're capoed. And so for the low E string, this is kind of cool. You can actually mute the low E and the D string with the same finger. So my 2 finger is hitting the low E and the D. You can even use your thumb too to help you with that potentially. And then a D sus chord. So works kind of substituting chords a little bit, but these are substitutions that work for sure. So we're going to play like our D, almost the same, but we're going to play our 4 finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string. So X, open, open, 2, 3, 3. And you can play the A, and it's just fine. So now let's try this again with these chords, but now it's going to be a little bit easier in terms of how much we have to move around. So let's try this. What can wash away my sin? Nothing but the blood of Jesus. What can make me white as snow, no other fount I know, nothing but the blood of Jesus. That's a pretty nice sound. That definitely works. So the last thing I want to hit on real quick, different strumming patterns. So let me show you real quick. Let's say we're wanting to strum as we grow in complexity. Let's say we want to strum on the 1 and the 3. So that would sound like 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You get the idea. Let's try another one. So if we were doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You heard when I went to that E minor the first time, you heard a little bit of string noise. That's something you want to try and avoid. Sometimes it's going to happen, but you want to try and keep that to a minimum. When you're doing that, think about strumming as essentially more or less binary. And what I mean by binary is there are two things that happen. There's a down strum and an up strum. So right now we've been doing just down strums. Let's try a down strum on 2 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you can see, in order to have the chord work for that, I have to at least hit the bass note and move on the 1. But it's a different option. Let's try something where we're playing less of a down strum. Let's say we're doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And what I'm doing with that on those is I'm just hitting the 2 or 3 lowest strings before I play all the strings. All right, so now let's try something different. Let's look at up strums. And I'm going to show you the extreme example of this, but most of the time up strums are not this. It's more of a subtle motion than that. It's usually more... A lot of times you're using up strums to grab the highest strings of the guitar and down strums to grab either the lowest strings or all of them. So let's say we're going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see what we're doing here. We're trying different variations to learn how to strum. And as you practice these in kind of arbitrary ways, the more you do it, the more it becomes natural. So let's try 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And you see, that feels really weird. That feels super weird. But when you do that and you start to practice those, it becomes more natural. So let me show you an example of how this works. So when we would count, before we were doing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and now we're going to break it up, and these would be 16th notes, what it'd be called, but we're going to say 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and it's going to be something like this. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E. And you hear I'm strumming up quickly on the of 2. On beat 2, the A or the I'm coming up and then quickly down on the 3. That's an example of how you could use up strums. So show you what I would do if I'm not trying to be simple, if I'm trying to actually leading worship with it. So. Those kinds of things. So you hear how I'm integrating these pieces, the down strums and the up strums. I'm just varying the rhythm and the timing and how many strings I hit and sort of feeling it out. It's more feel than conscious thought, but at first it's going to take a lot of conscious thought. So if you have questions, this is the point where hopefully you've been asking them in chat, but if not, you can come hang out on Zoom. But before we do that, let me tell you real quick about some cool things that are coming up with ZJC Worship that can help you. So we're going to be doing more webinars just like this to help you go from practice to platform. We're going to be doing a bass webinar on April 12th. We're going to be doing a drums webinar on August 23rd, an electric guitar webinar on October 18th, and a vocal webinar on November 15th. So if you want to learn these worship roles, it's going to be structured very similar to this with a webinar and then a Zoom hangout at the end. Invite your friends, come, tell your church about it. This is designed to help you help your church develop more musicians, which is a huge need for sure in a lot of different churches. So if you enjoyed this and you want to continue and get in a worship pipeline to help you learn acoustic guitar for worship, let me encourage you as strongly as I can. If this would be an awesome thing for you to do, to buy the acoustic course from ZJC Worship. So it's $79 if you get it without a subscription, or you can get a course subscription for $10 a month, and that includes all the courses. Or you can get a premium subscription for $20 a month, and that includes the coaching community, so you can post videos of yourself to get feedback, and you get some bonus workshops and some extra content there too. So without further ado, we'll hop over to Zoom. Thank you so much for coming, and I'd love to meet you and connect with you. And we're going to be giving away a free acoustic course at the Zoom Hangout. So look in chat, look in your email. For the link to the Zoom Hangout. So thanks so much for coming, and we'll see you there.